So Vimal, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we go into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow
Yes,
up?
Nick, I'm from India. I was born and brought up in India. I, did my schooling, my college years, and my first three jobs in my corporate career were all based in India. So I started my career in the early 1990s with Standard Chartered Bank. I moved from there to the Australian bank ANZ. Then from there, I moved to the Dutch bank ABN AMRO. Post which I then left India towards the end of 2002 and for overseas assignments. And since then, I've been an expat. I've lived in several countries across the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and now obviously in Johannesburg since 2012. So for a good 18 years, I've been working outside India.
And tell us, Vimal, what was your dream career when you grew up?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you sent me that question, it took me back decades. I always wanted to be a soldier when I was growing up, and I was quite inspired by smart and stylish uniforms that the soldiers had. And one of my cousin brothers, he was in the Indian military, so I watched him quite closely, and I always wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to enroll into the Indian Army and serve the country. So that was really my dream career when I was growing up. But destiny is not always in your hands. You end up becoming a banker.
Right. And tell me, who inspired you in your early days?
So I think, for me, my mother was always my inspiration. I think, she was a housewife back in the day, but I watched her, working really hard to ensure that my brother and I got the right focus at home. And she actually told me one thing a long time back, and she said, no peak is high enough. And that stayed with me, in my mind, in my early years, till today. When I think about challenges, I'm reminded by what my mother said, and she said, no peak is high enough. And she said it in a very simple language, in simple English, and that was enough to propel a youngster to start really aspiring for greater heights in life. So in many ways, it was my mother's influence in the early years.
And looking back over your career, Vimal, would you say there was a major turning point?
It's 25 years. There's been so many things that have come and gone. But I think for me, the most distinct point which actually brought me into banking was probably the turning point. And it was, as I was just out of college, you'll remember the ex-British Prime Minister, John Major. John Major was from Standard Chartered. Before he joined politics, he used to work in the bank in the UK. So in India, Standard Chartered was trying to attract young talent into its fold, and they were finding it difficult to attract a lot of postgraduates and good graduates. So they came up with a campaign in India, and it said, "Where do prime ministers come from?" And they had the picture of John Major, who had just stepped down from being British Prime Minister. And, the whole story around how he started his career with Standard Chartered. So that pushed me into banking. That was an inspirational, communication from a brand that was trying to attract talent. So to me, that clearly pushed me into banking. And I think the turning point in my career was, when I decided to leave India and pick up assignments overseas, because I think that broadened my horizons. It grew me as a leader faster than I would have if I had stayed in a homogeneous environment. At a point in time in the Middle East, I was working with about 35, 36 different nationalities. So the cultural flavor, the tolerance, appreciation of different kinds of people, and then the flavor of many geographies. I think that was really the turning point. So John Major he's kind of inspired me to get into banking, and then leaving India and the various roles that I've done overseas was really my turning point. It actually grew me as a leader.
And today, Vimal, you are the CEO of Retail and Business Banking and the Chief Digital Officer at EBSA. Can you tell us a little bit about your portfolio and also the highlights of your recent career?
So, Nick, I run a very diverse portfolio of businesses. So we have, as you know, presence in about 9 countries outside South Africa. So my remit is really in that part of the portfolio. And it is complex and challenging. As you can imagine, we are spread from the west to the east to the south. So that itself presents significant amount of challenges. Everybody says Africa is one continent, but it's not really. It's 54 countries, and each country is different. It's got a different landscape, a different flavor, different work ethic, a different culture. So to be able to really bring all these together into a cohesive part and then drive the growth of the franchise is a very challenging assignment, and that's something that I truly enjoy. I've been part of that journey now for a good 9 years, and it's very interesting. But what's more interesting now, at least in the last 18 months, has been our thrust into digital and data. So digital and data transformation is really now the sweet spot. That's where we are pivoting as an organization. And that's the most interesting part of my job today. And that's what drives me. The bread and butter businesses of running retail and business bank aside, building for the future, creating the rails for this franchise for the future, and most importantly, keeping the customer truly in the center as we build the future of this organization in a completely different and disrupted environment is really the most interesting part of my job. And I think COVID, expectedly or unexpectedly, has nudged us to kind of move faster down this track. Something that we would have perhaps taken a longer time is now getting condensed into a few months. And I think that makes it more challenging, that makes it, that stretches me, but it's interesting.
And what would you say, Vimal, is driving you today?
What's driving me today is the dream of building the new Absa Bank on the African continent, a new digital Absa Bank on the African continent for our customers. It's the dream of really creating the bank of choice by truly believing that the customer is at the center of everything we do. So a customer-centric approach driven by a digital and data transformation is what drives me today. It just is so interesting. Technology is just changing our thought processes, it is changing our belief, and it is also changing our perspective on how the future will look like in financial services. There is so much excitement right now.
Right. Now, Vimal, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
I think it's difficult to define the future of leadership in a single sentence, Nick, but I think the future of leadership is really, in my view, is going to hang on 3 pillars. I think the first is going to be on growth mindset. Is how do leaders create growth mindset in the organizations that they lead. The second, I think, is collective leadership. Is that leadership is not going to be, again, restricted or as a privilege of a few people. I think leadership has to has to now go down the organization. We have to drive this concept of leadership right to the front end of the organization. Everybody should feel part of being a collective leader. And the third is what's happening now is really becoming the change agent and driving resilience through the organization. So I think the future of leadership is going to really hang on these three pillars.
And Vimal, what have you learned from your own journey that you would consider most important for building future leaders?
I think I've learned several things. I mean, like I said, I think I've had the advantage and the privilege of working in multiple geographies across emerging markets. So I work for some really talented people and some really great brands. So over the years, I think what I learned is what's going to be important for building future leaders is we have to create an entrepreneurial culture in the organization. We have to build a culture in the organization where people feel intricately part of everything that is going on. They have a sense that from owning the strategy to building the strategy to the building blocks of the organization, they need to feel the freedom to be able to unfurl their talent and drive end-to-end ownership. And I think that is going to be the most important thing, because the future leaders are going to come from the recent stock, what we call as Generation Y and Generation Z and digital generation, etc., etc. The mindset of those individuals has to be channeled in an entrepreneurial fashion. They have to be given the workplace environment that they can then use their talent and they can use their different perspective to drive organizations onto a completely different journey. I think entrepreneurial culture is going to be most important to build future leaders.
And when you speak to aspiring leaders, Vimal, what is it you tell them about social media? How should they handle and navigate social media?
I've been asked, Nick, this many times, and I think I often reflect on how it should be. I think you'll appreciate that you and I, when we were growing up, there wasn't any social media, So to a large extent, we were quite insulated to the good and the bad that social media today brings. It's a platform that is extremely pervasive. So if you look at it, and the way I look at it, it can cut both ways. I think if you're a sensible, mature leader, you will use social media to generate positive messaging, and you will use social media to drive the right kind of narrative about the organization's values and culture. But if we are not careful as leaders, social media can also turn around and start biting us, and it can turn around and seriously damage your personal brand. So I think the advice I give a lot of the youngsters in my team is learn to use that media to promote your messaging, which is in a thought through manner. And we should be very careful how we are projecting our views and our thoughts in that medium, because unlike the media of the past, whatever enters social media stays there forever. Forget the virality of social media, it's also the longevity of content in social media. So that's the advice I give everybody, that be very careful how you want to be seen in these media, because once you establish a certain thought process and a certain image about yourself, it takes a much longer time to change it. So personally, I have a very cautious approach to social media. I try and project positive images about the corporate brand more than myself, and I feel my personal brand is more built through the corporate brand. That's really the approach that I have taken, and it's a very cautious approach, because I'm quite skeptical about the fallout of social media.
And Vimal, what is your advice to future leaders? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter in their career?
I think now the generation that's now coming up, Nick, I think um, the biggest challenge that they will have to, or some of the challenges that they will have to always live with is one is that change is going to happen to them faster than ever before. So the ability to keep morphing into the new environment, that pace of morph is going to substantially increase, and that will challenge the ability of an individual to stay resilient and to transform with changing times. I think that's going to be the first challenge. The second challenge is going to be that the forms of jobs and the ways of workplace is going to significantly change. So future leaders will have to figure out a way to engage with with their teams and with externals, not necessarily through a face-to-face approach. A lot of it will be bionic. It will be a mixture of physical and a lot more on the digital medium. So leaders have to get comfortable using digital medium. The third is technology changes are going to determine the pace of change in most organizations in the future. And by that, I mean the changes technology brings in interactions, the changes that technology will bring into business models, the changes that technology will present in terms of dealing with crime that comes out of it. So I think these are going to be the challenges that future leaders will have to deal with. The underlying to all this is that future leaders have to be far more resilient than the leaders of our generation and the ones before us.
And Vimal, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the new skills you would like to factor in?
I think there are some traditional skills that a lot of future leaders will still not take into consideration. I think for me the first skill which is relevant today and will continue to be relevant in the future, probably more relevant, is the ability to listen. And I think a lot of leaders suffer from the lack of ability to listen and be a great listener than a great talker. So I think that would be the first skill. The second is, like I said, going back to what I said in my earlier section, is future leaders will have to be far more technology savvy and on the mark in terms of the changes that are happening around them than ever before. So for me, they will all have to be fairly more on the curve on the technical side than we've seen leaders of our generation and before. And the third, I think, is that with the changes in the ways of work, it's also going to put a lot of I feel a lot of pressure on the psychological and emotional well-being of colleagues. So I think future leaders will have to be more empathetic to that and be able to connect and have a more human angle while dealing with their teams, because the changes in the environment are also going to have a huge impact on the emotional and psychological well-being of people in the future.
Now, as a mentor to future leaders, Vimal, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Yeah, look, I mean, the one story, I mean, the many who worked with me and who I groomed and are now in really very successful roles, across the world. But I think there are two that come to immediate mind. One is a lady, who came from a pharma background and used to sell Baskin Robbins ice creams in the Middle East. When she met me, and I took a leap of faith and put her into banking in Dubai. and over the years groomed her, made her a banking and payments professional. And I harnessed her energy and her curiosity and ability to learn in the right way. Today, she is with the MasterCard group in the UAE, and she's their country manager. She's one of the most senior female leaders in the MasterCard hierarchy in the Middle East. So that's a huge success story. It is about a person who came in from a completely unknown background to banking, and expressed that curiosity and desire to learn, challenge herself, and as a leader, for me to take a leap of faith on her, and then train her through the technical parts of banking and payments. And most importantly, I think I was able to completely channelize her creativity, her energy, and her commitment into creating a very strong female leader. That's number one. The second is another guy, is an Egyptian guy who worked for me, and he was when I picked him up, he was an extremely young, kind of a brash kind of individual, great energy, but he had an amazing capability to connect with people, build relationships, and literally he could sell anything to anybody. I mean, he had the gift of the gab, he had the patience and the energy to go through with clients and present himself and the organization. I picked him up, I groomed him for several years. I took him from one part of the Middle East to another country where we went together. We set up businesses together, and today he runs a full-fledged retail bank in one of the countries in the Middle East. So he's another success from a leadership perspective of me finding a rare talent in a person, not necessarily from within the DNA of banking, but having the right attitude and the willingness to learn, and then harnessing their abilities to grow them into a success story. These two are huge success stories, when I look back.
And Vimal, are there any role models of leadership that you came across in your career? And
so there are many, honestly, yeah. Nick, there are many. I think in the early years, I was quite impressed, and in India in the 80s, the freedom struggle in South Africa, we used to hear Nelson Mandela quite a bit, and I kind of in spirit joined that fight, although I'd never seen Madiba or known more about him other than from media sources. But when I started living here in South Africa, I began to appreciate his inclusivity and his thinking around inclusivity and diversity, which is what has created a new nation. So he was amongst the leaders who inspired me, although I'd never known much about him. It's just the spirit of the freedom struggle. But in many other ways, I think as I was climbing up the corporate ladder, Richard Branson had a huge impact on me. I think as a person who's dyslexic and a first generation entrepreneur, he grew to become a business magnate, a philanthropist, a writer, a showman. And I think what I liked about him is in one of his books, he describes why failure is important for leaders. And he describes how he always used failure as a way to improve himself and then create the next building block of success. And I think for a young mind, that stuck on to me quite significantly. And then I also kind of was quite impressed with the story of how McDonald's was created. Ray Kroc, in his mid 50s, a guy with no entrepreneurial background, just the sheer commercial sense of converting a burger joint into what is today the most successful and the biggest fast food outlet and the most visible brand in the world. So these early leaders have had a huge impact on my mind. And I think what's always stayed with me is you've got to build an entrepreneurial culture if you have to drive growth mindset.
Now, Vimal, how can our listeners connect with you, and where can they follow you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. Not so much on Facebook. I think I find Facebook very superficial. But I'm very active on LinkedIn and on Twitter. I do write blogs and I do publish articles. So I can be followed there.
And last but not least, Vimal, is there one piece of advice that you would like to convey to future leaders that they should implement in their own leadership?
I think the most important thing is how do you come across as a leader, and I think that's the most important thing. The leadership shadow is something that everybody should focus on, because that's what you convey to people who you touch, and you build a good leadership shadow by essentially doing a few things. One is, I think, as a leader, humility is something that has to come naturally. The ability to listen has to come very naturally. And the third and I think the most important thing is you have to create an environment where, and it just goes back to a sentence that I'm going to say, is that you've got to come across as a leader whose presence is felt, but whose absence is not missed. Because you've created the right environment and the right culture for your people to function, even if you're not there tomorrow. And I think that talks to the spirit of stewardship. Is you build an organization, you build your people, you build the culture in a way that when you leave, you're leaving it better than when you picked it up. Because I think what a lot of leaders forget is that human performance comes before financial performance. So if you want to drive the right outcome and the right financial performance and returns, as leaders, you have to first deliver on the performance of your people, because people drive that performance. And I think that's what I want to leave with my listeners.
Well, Vimal, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership, and reminding us that humility, listening, and creating the right culture are key to building the future of leadership.